love that garden. It's a great evocation of England right here in the Texas Hill Country. And right now we're going to be talking about the impact of English gardening on us here in Texas and actually throughout the United States, because there's a rich legacy associated with English gardens. And here joining me is Bill Welch, probably better, more steeped in the knowledge about this than anybody I can think of. Bill, it's great to have you back on Central Texas Gardener.
Thank you, Tom. It's great to be here and to talk about a really fun topic.
Well, it is fun. And I know that you visit English gardens and you teach about garden history to many, many different people. What is it about English gardens that still has a hold on our imaginations, even after a couple hundred years of independence here?
Well, that's true. It's there's just something about it we can't seem to escape. But English history and the beauty of English gardens are very much in our memories, I guess, from books and certainly from travel, from films.
Yeah.
All of these things. We think about things like Anne Hathaway's garden, you know,
Sure.
at Stratford-upon-Avon. But the romance of these cottage gardens in England, again, is something that we've reproduced in various interpretations here in Texas. But it does go back to the English system.
Well, you know, you referenced the cottage garden, and you know, I've been giving garden lectures for decades, and every time I flash up, you can show pictures of these gardens from all over the world. You put up an English cottage garden picture, and everybody in the audience just goes, "Ooh!" That's what it's kind of embedded in people's minds. That is what they want. That's what they envision in the garden.
It is. I think one thing is that cottage gardens give us an excuse to have a mixture of all sorts of things. And we can have this eclectic mix, but at the same time, the really effective ones have enough bones in them or enough structure to give that contrast, and that really helps us to appreciate the mix that we see there.
It's high artifice that looks natural.
It is. It truly is. It truly is, and it's a way we can bring in small fruits, vegetables. Certainly the different shapes of flowers become really important. You know, the spike flowers, the ray flowers, all of these sorts of things.
Counterpointing plants that are just green or gray. You know?
That's right. Different foliaged color plants and so forth. And here in Central Texas, we can go to some spiky things that you know we can interpret it into our own vocabulary here with things like red yuccas and agaves and plants such as that. Bring it very much into reality for us here.
So it really is, I think, and when we think about the cottage garden side of the English equation, you know, as you reference, you have that kind of flowing series of forms and colors that looks so natural. But you also reference the bones part, and that's something to me that I really want to stress that to our viewers, that this is something, you know, they may, like I said, they may look natural, but they're really highly designed.
Well, they the most effective ones are, and they have this contrast of having a hedge or a wall. Of course, stone in this part of the world is fabulous material, but we can also do it with hedges. We can do it with fencing to give us some structure. We can get into a few overhead structures occasionally. Certainly, in our climate, it makes so much sense to have a little shade in the summer.
Arbor, yes.
And our early ancestors smartly brought those into the landscape because. The most appropriate place in the whole garden in the summertime is under a shade structure, you know, with vines.
Also, there's a sense in English gardens, when you talk about the bone side of it, there is a sense of sequence and rooms and very designated kinds of spaces.
Yes, there very definitely is. And the way you get from one of those spaces to another is quite often with walks. And these can be gravel, they can be other materials. But taking one person from one part of the garden to another, and of course the whole idea of the outdoor living space. And many of us are dealing with smaller spaces these days, and to be able to increase our living space by having some outdoor space. And if you're on the inside looking into some of these areas, it's still another great opportunity.
And there's a way too that you kind of accessorize a garden like this. You create rooms by, for one thing, providing a place to sit.
Yes.
But there are also centerpieces that draw your eye and hold your gaze.
There truly are. We can do this with art. We can do it with container plants. We can do it with sculpture.
Sure.
Lots of different ways that can be done. I think the container plant thing is a fascinating one. We can go into areas of the garden that may be too shady for color plants, and we can do it seasonally with container plants. We can do things that tolerate a lot of dryness in containers, which again makes a lot of sense for us here because we're all out to use less water in our landscapes. So you have to create these very interesting English looks.
Right, yeah, and even the native plants here require a drink a day in the summertime.
Most everything,
if they're in a container.
Most everything really does that has a preference. There's for sure, but we've got a lot of succulents that really will tolerate actually weeks without water in this area. So there's the containers are good accessories for us, and the pots themselves, can be a very nice addition. And cut flowers from the garden into the house, again, a very English type thing. Having an area for some cutting things to bring in is another.
Yeah, absolutely. Bringing the outdoors in, and also integrating kind of the architecture. One thing that I think about English gardens is often there's some element of the architecture of the home or the manor that is reflected in the garden, and maybe the materials used or something like that. There's a reflexive quality to it.
There really is. There truly is. It's good design. But the real genius of the English look, I think, is this mixture of different sizes and shapes and forms and flower shapes and colors, and the massing of them, but then contrasting that with some structure of some kind. And again, the structure can be clipped plants, or it can be walls, or it can be hedges or fences.
Okay. Well, when people start to assemble a bed, when we see the end product in a gorgeous image, it looks, again, so natural. It's hard to envision how you pull that together as a design. But there are some simple rules to that, right? I mean, you choose a color palette, for example, and you repeat things. And
well, it's good to think about all these different possibilities before and try them. I mean, you can get plants and set them around and try them in different ways. But one of the exciting things about this English concept to me is you can work and work and work at it, and then all of a sudden something pops up on its own somewhere, and it's better than anything you thought of.
I think that is part of the charm and the beauty of gardening in that style, is the fact that you can try to again set a palette choice. You can set the big plants at the back of the bed, the medium-sized plants. You can use them in rhythm sequences, et cetera, et cetera. But over time, they're going to move around and do their own thing.
They are. And something's going to pop up where you didn't necessarily plan it. And if you're open-minded about it, you'll realize that sometimes those things are better than some of the things you thought of.
Right. There's knowing how to group the plants and knowing the needs of the plants, I think, is really essential too.
It is. It's a very practical thing to understand the needs of the plants, and you don't want extremely high water use plant next to something that wants practically no water.
Right.
And so that becomes a major part of things, is to put plants together that are compatible.
Right.
But of course we're looking at growing compatible, but then we're also looking at visually compatible, and the textural contrasts that we can get, and a few plants for foliage, a few artemisias, for instance, or something like that, bringing in the gray and the different texture. Some of our sedums and the Mexican sedums are just wonderful for this area.
Right.
Low water use and again can give us a lot of visual impact.
Right. Well, Bill, I just want to give a shout out to your more recent book, Heirloom Gardening in the South. You've done books on the topic before. This relates very directly to the topic of English gardening. So many of the plants have that heirloom quality to them. But it's always a great pleasure to have you on the program, and we value you, and I want to go to England with you sometime.
Well, we need to do that. We truly do. I've missed the last year and a half of being there, and I'm about ready to go back. So
right.
maybe we can find a little mission to
Let's do that.
accomplish
Okay.
that.
Well, thank you again, Bill Welch, for being our guest on Central Texas
Thank
Gardener.
you, Tom. Great being here.
Coming up next is Daphne.